Everyone to a special Friday the 3rd. If only we're the 13th.
Recording
Friday the
in
3rd.
progress.
Oh, sorry. Let me start again. Welcome everyone to the Friday, November 3rd special planning board meeting. We have just a couple of things on our agenda, and that's to catch up on the town meeting report. It's to just review what's been produced so far, and then very quickly to go through and review the articles on the warrant to see whether or not the board wants to make a statement about endorsing or not endorsing or anything else. So why don't I I sent out a draft earlier this morning. It has changed a reasonable amount since then. So I'm going to share my screen. Is that okay if I grab it from you, Taylor? Yep. Okay. And where the heck is it? Try this as big as possible. Okay, can everyone see all the way down to the bottom of the screen where my mouse is moving? Okay, great. Sometimes it doesn't show the whole screen. So I I Ching came out with a different approach towards design and content on Tuesday. So I have stolen everything that I Ching did. All the good stuff are hers and all the bad stuff is mine. So we've reduced, this is a little much more streamlined than it was before.
Just quickly, my name is spelled with two S's.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm sorry, Nick. There, thank you. Let's save that.
Diab, are you in a preview mode, or those dashes, the grid, does that disappear?
I'm in edit mode right now.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, carry on.
Yeah. The dashes have caused me plenty of angst. They kept showing up, and they kept showing up on top of images, and I finally figured out how to turn that off. It was getting very annoying.
I get it now.
Okay, so we're down to these 5 things, and actually we'll go through them. The first is so we've decided to go full bore on MBTA 3A, Communities Act. So this is the intro. Just gives some of the important things passed by the legislature in 21, applies to community with access to MBTA service. It's not optional, removes roadblocks to residential development, focuses on areas close to transit, and this, sort of generic requirement. The next thing is essentially, how did we get there? Why do we need such a thing? The plot on the right is a plot showing the percentage of the Winchester's housing stock when it was built. And you can see that only about 5% of it was built after 2014. And it's essentially showing that there's been no growth in housing stock while the demand has gone up, and that of course increases prices. When we stopped building houses, what did we stop building? We stopped building the ones where that actually are the cheapest to make, or the cheapest to live in, least expensive. This is what it is now being called the missing middle. It's the multiple unit buildings where we go from renovating existing simplex, duplex, fourplex up to, so essentially all of the things we don't have in town. The next slide goes into a little bit about housing cost burdens in Winchester, in that we have about 25% of Winchester owners pay more than 30% of their income on housing. 45% of Winchester renters pay more than 30% of their income on housing. Trying to set this up for if we had more affordable housing, they might be able to move into a more affordable unit, or they would just be able to, or we would, yeah, I guess that's the key thing. Then I'm not quite finished with this part, but I'm trying to pull together all the suggestions that were made. And I haven't pulled in some of the stuff from I Ching, and I'm beginning to worry about length. So this is the less generic sort of statement for the 3A Act, where you have to have at least district of, you know, you need a large district, multifamily by right, no age restrictions, suitable for families with children. This is the graphic I think that we looked at and liked in terms of these three knobs we could turn. Um, then I pulled in the what those three knobs mean in terms of, you know, breaking it out into look, all of these things you see before you. So I'll go into this a bit. The next slide, I think, is it's a little dense, and I'm a little worried about this one. This is the revised slide from last night's presentation by Emily, but it does kind of provide, I just don't know. I think this might be a lot for people to comprehend in like 30 seconds. So but this is really the only place I could find where, for instance, let me zoom it in for y'all, that you can actually see the numbers at the bottom here. And I think that, oh, that's in black. That should be in white. I'll fix that. And so is this one. Okay. But it kind of breaks this out nicely, but it might be a little dense. Then I wasn't able to, I wanted to put a map of our 4 districts in here. And I really wasn't able to piece them together well because they're so spread out. So what I did is I essentially took the 4 maps that Emily presented, and then there's sort of transition from one slide to the next, and they're all in the right scale and they overlap correctly. But that's where I was going to, you know, give an idea of where we're looking at putting the districts, the proposed districts. This is a slide which has not been changed yet. And so this is where we'll talk about, oh shoot, I didn't put a lot in here. Okay. Yeah, so one of the things that has to go in, pardon me, I'll bring it up so you can see what should be going in there. Oh, this is not the one. Let's go up one. Shoot. It's the one from last night. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I thought I put these in here, but I guess I didn't. So there are these ones that I thought were really nice that Emily put together. So I want to put these in at the end to show what the steps are. And I think there's in this original slide here on this, it kind of, I think we get rid of most of this, talk about design guidelines, and then the next steps, which are, we've got the ZRAC, that's already on the other slide. And so this slide goes away. And then we should have all of the videos up by Monday, and I'll put a URL for that website. So I'm really worried here because we already are now at about 10 or 11, maybe 12 slides just for the MBTA stuff. And so I know some of them might go through more quickly, but then we move on to, and I Ching did a really nice job of connecting the multi-unit housing to a visual display of where they're at. I Ching, there's only one correction I made, which is that the Washington Swanton are actually pre-application, so I moved them into a new category. Then she pulled out pictures, which I think that works really nice. So it gives you an idea. It doesn't show all of them. For instance, it doesn't show the Mount Vernon one, but it gives you an idea of all the ones that are in the process. Then we get to the subsidized housing index, and each put together this plot, which I think is a really good way of showing progress or lack thereof. And just a few words at the bottom indicating where we're at in terms of safe harbor. This segues into the housing production plan. I've distilled this down to just a few bullets. We really need to get a better graphic on our housing production plan. If you go look on the web for other people's, they have wonderful graphics. Ours is really plain. This thing on the right is actually the cover of our last one. It's pretty bland. So this will be quick. We'll just talk about the working group that's coming together, and it's possible that that may already have been discussed by Beth. Then there's just a one slide saying that we are, for Holton Swanton Cross, we have a study. That's the front cover of the study up in the upper right. We've got the report. We've shifted our focus. We formed a community working group. And that's it. I did actually have one last slide I put in, which I didn't discuss last time, and that's just, one of these data slides, but I'll just throw that in at the end. So that's the really quick overview. So please, your reactions, where you can think we can trim to get this down to 10 minutes.
So I made notes as I went along, but I don't need to go first.
Oh,
I like the Ching's approach.
Yeah.
It was very compelling, and when I first saw it, I imagined that we would have the 3A discussion because she didn't cover that, and then we would just substitute her entire presentation the way it is.
Wait, which one was that? The one she put out last night?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, well, the thing is that our presentation is usually very dense, and I think we lose people. And so I guess what my suggestion was going to be is that if there's any slide that she's done, then we should just use hers.
Well, let's take a look at each.
And then this the median apartment rental. I mean, you kind of have to be. I don't know that it is a great audience thing. I mean, it's
we can.
nice.
This is an extra slides. We just. I don't know why it's still showing. Yeah, that's just extra slides. We don't have to show that. I meant to click on the front one. So I'm trying to find my email so I can find I Ching's. Did I kill my email? Oh, there it is.
I mean, I thought that was when I first looked at it, I thought, well, this is going to keep people interested and awake, and it's graphically and visually just pulls you in, and it's kind of less is more. There's less verbiage and more graphics that can just say a lot.
Yeah. So one of the tensions we have here is that damn it, where did it go?
Or we could have an
appendix
with all the stuff that you want to have in the printed version that they can look up on their own.
So that so that's that is the thing I was saying, is that we want to have some people sometimes read this, and if we just have, so let's take a look. So let's take a look at I Ching. So we're going through a lot of the master plan here. And I think that so let's
This, I mean, that slide is great, the SHI. I mean, compared to, kind of a
yep,
table of numbers.
but that's
It
in it.
just,
I've already taken
just,
that, Nick.
right, right.
So let's
Uh,
just focus on the ones. So one of the we've got. We're not talking about the Holton. So I'm trying to
right. Yeah, maybe we
understand
don't need,
where
maybe we
these
don't
fit
need,
into.
right.
What is the narrative we're creating here? Where are we going with the narrative? I know I
Well,
Ching is
that's what
trying to
I'm
create
having
a
a hard
narrative.
time. I'm having a
Can
hard
you
time.
hear me?
Yes,
It's
Yes.
yes.
awful.
Oh, good, I
Can you hear
Ching.
the whole bus singing?
No,
That's the whole
No.
bus. Oh my God, it's awful. Okay, the whole point was to go back to the master plan 2030 so that we have some kind of blueprint to go back to remind everyone that this work has been done before, right? And there are three areas that the town had decided to focus on. The GBD and Main Street and Holton. And those are the three areas that the planning board is actually focusing on this year, last year, and the reason why is because of economic vitality. You know, that drainage, that economic drainage chart was really significant to me. I hadn't seen that before, but it was something like $60 million per year is draining from the town for groceries alone, retail, and go back one more. Yeah, that one. The only positive thing is in lawn care, right? Everything else, like $60 million or whatever it is, I can't read it right now. Um, all those things are leaving the town, and we are always at a net loss for commercial taxes. So the focus on these three areas is to increase that. Oh my God, I
So
can't hear.
sorry, Ching, you're breaking up. So I'm a little confused now. And the reason
this
I'm
is
a
a
little
very interesting.
confused is that when we left off last time we met, we decided we were going to focus on MBTA. And
Correct.
so what I see here is, and I'm not against it, I'm just a little confused as where we're going, is we are actually talking more about development across town rather than focusing on the MBTA.
So
And
I want to
that's,
focus on those three areas because people are constantly asking what smear station, right? So if we go back to the 2030, if we go back to the 2030 master plan, the town had collectively thought that the three areas for development was the GBD, the Main Street, and Holton. And so those three areas combined with the MBTA Communities Act as well as the Main Street Initiative is a huge reason why we're focusing on the Winchester Center. So I don't want to derail your argument here, dear, but I just wanted to go back to the master plan to make people realize that we have thought about this before. This isn't coming from out of the blue. And the MBTA Communities Act is just part of, and it incorporates into the plan that the town itself has decided for. That was the reason for the economics of the entire presentation was focused on housing. The housing is very important. But I think the town has been very concerned about economic development as well. And so to incorporate it into the concept of the Main Street and CBD is important. As well as Holton Street.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having a real hard time understanding you, Ching. I think you just have a really bad
Can I suggest
connection.
that so I Ching, it's really hard to hear you because you're breaking up, and so we're getting like every other or third syllable, and it's not piecing together cogently. Um, and what would be helpful is a side by side, like almost like a combine the two, put them in a slide sorter, and then choose the slides you like that tell the best story. And we can do that now using slide sorter, or we can have a subgroup do that and come back to us.
We can't, we don't have time for that. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
need to get this to town hall by noon on Monday.
Okay.
And so we need to make a decision about the direction. I'm more than happy to work with I Ching to incorporate the narrative. I
It
think
seems,
that,
yeah, I was just gonna say, it seems like you have already incorporated a good amount of I Ching's presentation. I
well,
mean, we're operating under a deadline so that maybe we can use substantially the one that you've done and then just make a point of revisiting this.
well, no, I mean,
There
I
is no
think I can,
revisiting.
what I might suggest is that if the board wants to um, incorporate this, I think I Ching raises some good points. Um, I think that we have a problem in terms of we have about 6 minutes, give or take, to give this. And so I think we have to be,
That's
I
my
have,
concern.
yeah, so I have no problem integrating this narrative. I don't, like, for instance, I would say that we would have to condense some of it
We'd have
and
to get rid of
some,
some other slides. I mean,
You,
we'd have
you
to
can
get
you
rid of.
can condense the group of slides into a very graphically appealing bulleted list on 1 or 2 slides. And you can,
well,
I mean, it can be graphically appealing, even if it doesn't contain the detail images that I Ching has
well, but
extremely well put together.
so let's just decide upon what we want to do with this, and then I can work offline with I Ching if the board agrees to create that. So we're going to take I Ching's concept of um, merging or looking at the existing work to revitalize these areas, and some of the economic development we can put in here. This housing stock, I think, is an important one. I apologize, I just hadn't gotten to incorporating some of these into my slides. So if the board is okay with us moving in that direction, and we'll sign off on me working with I Ching to incorporate that direction into the slide deck, then we can do some massive editing and arrive at a 10-minute thing over the weekend. So I just need you all to sign off on that.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I would endorse that.
Okay.
Yes,
Um,
I would too, Diab. I think, when you think about twice a year, we tell the town meeting, what are we working on? And then very briefly, what are we doing next until we see you again? And I think this covers what we're working on. And the question is, the order in which you put them, the level of detail that you go into them, and uh, and uh, yeah, and that's it. The order you put them in, the
yeah.
level of detail you go into, and
So
a lot of people are going to glaze over if it's too much detail. They really do like big pictures. Like the person will say, "Let me tell you 3 things first," and he tells you the first thing, and then you don't even remember that he said 3 things, and all of a sudden he says second, and you're suddenly got a framework that you're following him on.
well, I am fully in agreement with that. If you have more than 10 minutes, I
Right. Well,
think the
that's
problem
okay.
is we do have to pack a lot of information in 10
Yeah.
minutes.
So
Wait, but
And
why?
and
Wait,
s-
why
are
do we
you able
have
to
to?
work?
Why do we feel like we have to pack all the information in? I mean, why don't we just choose what we think people would need to hear and not pack everything in?
Right, just
Make it
keep it
make
high
it
well,
make a
well,
level,
choice.
not too much
Keep it high
detail,
level.
but enough for
but
high
we
level
did
enough
that.
so that they know.
We did that last week. We went through and we reduced most of the things to just a slide or so. So
Right.
that's
Okay.
why, and so then now and then we decided to focus on MBTA. And so MBTA is a very complicated thing. So the question is, how far into it do we go? Um, so, you
That's right.
know, I can pull in, so we're going to need, if we
Okay.
can, so it's just, we have 10 minutes. And
Is
so,
I Ching
you know,
available this weekend?
I do not know. I Ching is I will, when I Ching comes away or comes into a better reception area, she can
Yeah.
contact me and we can set it up. Or I will just work with this. I can, if we want to go on and why don't we just do this? So
I
let's
had
say that,
comments on your slide by slide progression, and I could share those with you if you want me to, because I think that the front end of it is good, and it's punchy and it's visually concise. And as you get farther into it, because you haven't had the time to get farther into it yet, you can see the contrast. So can we go back to the beginning, and I can just
sure.
kind
Let me
narrate
go.
my
Okay,
thoughts? So let me just see.
that's the very beginning.
Right, no, and I like the opening slide. It's bright, it's cheerful, it's timely. And then
That's
second slide is fine, just very quick, everyone knows. And then third slide, this is what you're going to talk about today. And tonight, and I would actually number them if you care to, because then you can say, okay, number 2, and everybody's following along and saying, wow, cool, we're 3/5 of the way through the thing. So that's one comment,
yeah. So
right?
that's a good way to lie, is put numbers and people think they mean something. But there we go.
Yeah, no,
We will
that's
number
good.
them.
Yes. And then it's just an outline. And then the next slide, okay, so this is a primer. And I think these bullet points are really important, and you don't need to read them verbatim. You need to say to them, the points that you see on your screen are the reasons that we're doing this. And you can say other things, like there's
I
100.
will be, yes. I try not to read from the slides.
Right,
So
exactly.
yeah.
But I think this is a good slide, and I think we can go to slide 4 or slide 5.
Okay.
And then on slide 5, look at the timelines. So 1940 to 1959 is 20 years. 60 to 79 is 20 years. 80 to 99 is 20 years. But 2000 to 2009 is only 10 years. And 10 to 13 is only 3 years. And 14 or later is 9 years, depending on when they stopped doing data collection. And if I were a data wonk in the audience, I would say that this is not um, an informative slide to compare all the houses built before 1939 to the number of houses built in 3 years between 2010 and 2013.
Yeah.
It's a,
So
it's a
yeah, what
flawed.
really, what I would love to put on here is the growth of population.
So this is deep dive visual for people. And this is an example. Let's just flag that one. This slide is making a point in support of a larger topic. And if you go to number 6,
Well,
let
I
me
mean, do you
bear
think we
with
should
me a
get rid
second.
of this? Do we
No,
should
I'm saying
do?
that we can condense 5 and 6. No, well, 6 has got a great graphic, but we can condense the data point about 5 into 2 bullets. The bullet is the demand is increasing, the demand is exceeding supply, and we've stopped building housing. You don't need the graph. I love the little lightning bolt pointing up to the sky, burning down the little house. I think that this is the graph of everything getting too expensive. So then number 6, but I'm
So
saying
let me get it. So what you're thinking is that we don't need, um
I don't need the
that
chart. The chart
you don't need the chart,
the
but
chart is
do we want,
flawed, and the point is still made. But the chart is flawed because the bars don't represent equal time periods.
but we don't have any data then.
I know. That's why we say we've stopped building housing. You could say not stopped, because people would have people who are building housing would say, well, I didn't. They would say our housing production is significantly less than it has been. I don't know. Like you'd have to do, if you did
Okay.
1999 to 2023.
Yeah. So I think I don't, the proper data comparison would be with the growth of population.
Okay, so let's do that.
But I know I don't have the time or the data to do
Well,
that.
also,
I looked really hard for that
the
and I was
people that
unable
are
to determine
opposed
it.
to development in this town see the growth in population as one of the symptoms of excessive development, right? Or one of the results. And so it's
Well,
not a great thing to talk about growth. It's just a great thing to talk about demand. Why is there a demand? Because people
okay.
can't afford to live close to their jobs.
Okay. So, that's fine. So we'll get rid of this plot.
Right.
We'll move on to
Just,
this one.
yeah. I mean, the
And
main
then,
point about the MBTA 3A is that there's a shortage of housing, a big shortage of just sheer number, gross number of units, and the housing that's being produced is predominantly luxury housing.
right. So in terms of providing some, I think we can't simply say we have a shortage of units because I think that that doesn't convey the immensity of the problem. So that's
Okay,
why
all right,
some sort of some data point which brings that home. And this is what I could find.
right.
And I can assure you, I went all over the place and I actually tried to steal data from the Boston Globe Spotlight series. And I discovered that their data is really hard to steal, not because they can't steal it, but because it just doesn't work. It's too complicated to show in a
Yeah.
20-second slide. So what we want is some sort of quantitative.
Well, go back up to slide 4. This is where you're grounding. You're going back to slide 4. Okay, right here. So the MBT Communities Act, and you end with the point that we have to provide a minimum number of units, land area, and density. And I would go from there down to possibly number 7, because 5 and 6 are a sideways look at how we got here. And well, I mean, maybe not number 6. I think slide number 5 is the one I have a problem with. It's if we can skip it and just say,
Okay, so what I think here is maybe we can pull in. I think this is a really useful one that I've stolen before, and I may be able to pull it out of one of my.
yeah, and this is from the master plan action plan.
No, I think this is actually from the initial conditions.
Oh,
There's a
initial
deep.
conditions. Yes.
Yeah, I think it was called that,
Existing
or what it
conditions.
was.
So the argument I was
Existing.
trying to make with this slide was that our housing stock is single family housing, but the one before that, the demographics were the housing, the household types. There were some 3,000 household types with young children. If you go up one slide, um, so, so it was somewhat 50% of the housing household types were people with households with young children. Whereas the other ones that couples living by themselves. It's just that the household types do not match the housing stock type, and we have an aging population that don't have the right housing size to go into, right? So there's a mismatch here, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm sorry. I just lost the connection just as you started speaking. Which could someone, Chen, could someone give me a summary?
I cannot because I only heard every other syllable. But I did
So,
agree with the last thing.
okay. Yeah, I really want to hear what I Ching has to say since this is, um, let me try to bring this back. I have no idea why everything has gone away. Where the heck did it go? There it is. So let's, if we want to, let me go and connect with I Ching and understand later. I Ching, I really apologize. I think we'll have to figure this out. So if you don't want to talk about how we got here, then, we can remove this slide, and then I think we can talk about, and I'll get in touch with I Ching and understand her point. But I think that, we can incorporate this. I think it goes with this slide. These two are the same but different. So this is
I agree.
showing. So I think they're complementary ways of looking at it. It's just a question of which one is easier for people to digest. Maybe we do both. I don't know.
Well, I
Um,
think the one on the left, because it makes reference to Winchester's standing. This is the housing stock type slide that has the
yeah,
orange and gray. It makes reference to Winchester's standing relative to neighboring and comparison communities, except for Lexington. Um, and I don't
yeah,
know
but
what it says except for Lexington. That must be really old.
I would, to be honest, I wouldn't use any of the words on this slide. They're just too hard to read and too
Yeah,
quick. I
right.
would, if we're talking about the missing middle, then I think what we can do is we can talk about the missing middle with using this generic slide on the right,
I like
and
the
then,
one on the right better, number
and,
6 and 25.
but I think we can dial in right here and say, and here's the data for Winchester.
Okay, and like just put it as a final bullet at the bottom of the screen or something.
Yeah, but I think we can, let me see if we can incorporate both of these,
Okay,
because I
good.
think that they're complementary.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay,
so,
so
so what
then
I was yeah, so the next two, I was trying to bring in more of, so why don't we get rid of the next two? Because they
I'm okay
are,
with that. I had
I
issues
didn't,
with the graphical.
yeah, there was the only data I could find, and I don't like the way it's presented, but that's,
And also this whole thing with 3A, I'm really hearing this loud from Emily, is that the main thing is the the housing shortage. And the fact that so many people are cost burdened is a function of supply and demand and the shortage, as well as inequities in pay and everything, of course. But the point of the 3A wasn't done to get more affordable housing, it was done to get more multifamily housing. And so
well,
to focus on the number of renters that are cost burdened um, is these are the people who will benefit when prices go down because all this housing gets built.
right. So what I was, part of the idea here was to focus on the needs of Winchester so people could see that the 3A's housing will actually aid people in Winchester. So how do
Yes,
we
it's addressing a local, real
need?
local need.
So that's what these two graphs
I,
were trying to focus on, Winchester's needs, and these are the data I have. So
so let me
if,
just ask you one question.
yeah,
The blue has underneath it 75%, and I realize that across the bottom, that's a 0 to 100 bar. Those
mhm.
confuse me. Like not cost burden, you could just put there 54% or whatever it is. And then for cost burden, you could just put, you know, um,
Right. So now we're
instead of
going
having that
back.
thing across the bottom, because it conflicts with the numbers.
Well, it's actually, the numbers are, this is from 0 to 100% across the bottom.
I know, but
And this is
visually
just,
it says
this is
45 and
just,
then it says 75.
that's correct, because it's a bar chart that's going
All right.
sideways.
I
If I
defer.
were,
I defer.
yeah, so all I'm saying is if I just put the numbers down, and I did this a week ago, people would have said, nobody wants to see a table. They want to see charts and graphs. So
All I'm
we
saying is that you're saying pay more than 30% of their income, and you've got the more than 30% on the right towards 100 and the not burdened on the left towards 0. And it's just
no,
the
so the
the two
30%,
scales are going in opposite directions. That's all I'm saying.
sorry, no, the 30% has to do with the color. So if you are cost burdened, you're spending more than 30% of your income. So the 45% goes with what's on the bottom. So if you move, and so obviously
That's why if you
this is
put
confusing.
45 in the middle of the yellow and 35 in the middle of the green, and then the other numbers can
I'm not going to
fall out.
redo this plot. I'm sorry. This is something I grabbed from MHP's
Okay,
website.
and then let's just
So
keep going. I should not be
so if this is the question that before us is, do we want to present local data to provide a window on the Winchester residents who would be using this new housing? If we want to, then I could,
I say yes. It's a good it's a good
so
objective.
we will have to figure out a way of turning this into a a slide which is not just a table, and that's not, it's there's a lot of work that I still have to do on this. So if I can't get to that, then I may just have to delete these slides, because there's just, so that's the only reason they're there. We can go back and look at, I mean, there are other slides that are in this existing conditions report which talk to that, but they're more complicated. So I can see if I've done similar, sorry, I've done
I
similar
agree that keeping it
presentations.
simple is important, and
Yeah,
being able to
so
nimbly go through the slides is important. I just was saying that I was visually confused by it being a horizontal stacked bar chart, and
yeah,
perhaps a pie
I
chart would
agree.
work better. That's all
I
I'm saying.
agree. I completely agree. I do not like these plots. They're just the only ones I've got.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
so now we move into a description of the MBTA for, I'm gonna, shoot, let me make this smaller. I'm trying to see if I can get some of I Ching's work on here. So I work with I Ching to incorporate the story of our planned development, but that's about it. There's nothing really here about MBTA at this point in
Right, and we're
particular.
really reporting on what we are doing. This mandate has landed squarely in our lap. We
Right,
are on this, and people need to know it's impactful, and we're working on it, and this is what
right.
we're doing.
So the question is, how much detail are we going to go into in terms of the working of the act? So
Right,
when we
so
met
number 9, I
last,
think, is imperative. Number 10, if you can speak to this and just say that the way that we comply with this law is by making sure that we comply with standards in these 3 categories. I love the gears. If you can just say what we do, or maybe put the other one first. We have to comply in these 3 categories. And then when you jump to number 10, which would then be after, it would say, and when you push one, you pull the other, and it's a really delicate balance.
well, maybe we would just do this,
That's a cool thing too.
or make it a little bigger so it's visibly, come on.
Yeah, but this is definitely what we're saying, is that we have to comply in these 3 areas, and it's a push-pull to get it just the right balance of location, size, closeness to the train, number of units, density of units per acre,
Okay,
closeness to train, and land uses and lot size and dimensions and part. I mean, this is, people
okay.
need to understand it's not simple.
So the question again is, how deep do we go on this?
That's as deep as you go. That's it. That's what we're working on, and we're looking at all
Okay,
those things to come up with
okay,
comprehensive.
because last week we were going in really deep,
We
because
were
this
going
is one
really
of
deep
this,
because we wanted to look at the maps.
Yeah,
so
I,
yes. So
Well,
what do
Nick,
we
if we
get rid
show a
of?
map, we can do that, but people are going to stop the meeting right there and say,
no,
"Can you put
I'd be
this on the map?"
supportive of paring it down even more.
So this is one of the slides that was recommended we put in. So do we kill it?
Uh, yeah, maybe.
Go ahead. I mean, I have no ego on this.
I mean,
If this is
I think less is going to be more ultimately, and
okay. So, but the key thing is this is the only slide which has
It
the
has the
actual
data.
quantities.
Can
It's
you
got the
put that
data.
data in 4 bullet points, big letters, and not use up white space with arrows?
Okay.
Like
So we're
see
gonna,
slide number, it's going too fast. I don't know which one.
okay, so I'll put this in a table.
I think
Um,
yes, we
we,
do have it in a table. And
no,
you
well,
can,
we'll have to, we don't have it in a simple table. That's the problem. Every table that I found is complicated.
right. So Diab, I'd be
So
happy to work with you in Iching to make that table if you want me to, and you let me know.
sure, I will take the numbers out of here and I will, yeah. So
Because
let's,
they're so small you can't read them.
no, I agree. Well, they're small because it's on a tiny screen here.
I don't think I could read it in town meeting either.
Yeah, I agree. It's especially when it's black. Okay,
And
so
is
we
this
will
one that
take
Emily
this.
made?
Yeah, this is from Emily's
Yeah.
talk
I
from
like
last
it.
night.
It worked last night in an intimate Zoom meeting. I don't know if it would work on a big screen. There's a lot of white space and small type. And
And
I
it's
don't
very,
mind
it's
white space, but I
visually,
definitely don't want small type.
it's visually complicated. It's not so. I will take the numbers out and put them in some visual display which is not too table-like. So now we get to the maps, and this is one where, unfortunately, the maps we have are in sections, and so I don't really have I don't have well, I have the tools, but I don't have the time to go in and slice these up so that they all overlay at the same time.
And
So this is,
you're putting them out of numerical order because that's the building to the crescendo, right?
I think the sections are probably okay.
I think
Because
the
you,
sections are okay
it's
too.
hard to absorb the whole thing anyway.
yeah.
And
So
they would be too small.
You can
the
make the
numbers,
maps bigger and put a frame around each little box. And if you want to put one or two data points under each of the district number and name, like something relevant to that is explaining, like up above you were talking about the three features. So if you go back up to number 11 or
okay,
whatever it was, you could
okay,
just put
yes,
feature, feature, feature.
okay. So to get to your first point, the numbers have been assigned in the technical thing, and they're not in order. So I'm just moving from north to south.
Oh, okay, good. And you should say that so people wonder why.
Yeah. So these are all the reason they're in this strange thing is because they visually overlap. This is actually how they overlap on the ground.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
And so if I were to, that's why they were in weird. If I put them all, this one here, let me go to this one. This actually has them all overlapped at once, which, as you can see, is visual chaos.
Yeah, that's not a difficult, that's a difficult slide to use. That's correct.
It is, but this is the actual to scale, properly aligned overlap of all of the districts.
Maybe you show
So
that one really quick at the very end and just no, but say, so for instance, if you start with number 14, okay, and you say, and actually you could even take out the numbers, like go to number 14, right? And you say, there's the Parkview district, and you don't have to call it number 3. Nobody knows it's a number 3 right now. It's the Parkview district. And you say, I'm going to go from north to south. First, we have Parkview, and I would take that box and I would frame the box and I would make it bigger and I would put it in a particular optimal location on the right side or as big as you can.
so you don't think it's, so just to be clear, you don't think it's important that they overlap
No,
geographically?
that was completely lost on me. I was wondering why they were so small.
Okay.
So
So I
make it
think,
bigger and put everyone in the same location. And under each name, put 3 bullet points that relate to the slide. If you go up to number 10 or whatever it was,
yeah, I will put in the data for each of these.
and not more than 3 points. And it's the 3 points that you talked about up above.
Yep. Okay.
And so then you get to the last slide, which you have grayed out right now, which is number 13.
Oh, this is
And this is
impossible.
say
Sally, this doesn't work at all
no, it doesn't work at all. You're exactly correct. Okay, good.
because
Next.
they're not transparent and there's
Right,
no
so
way of
moving
making them.
forward onto 17,
Yeah.
18.
So this work.
We'll just get rid of
Whatever.
this slide.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Oh, let's
And
let
so
Carrie in.
then this slide, the typefaces are all different sizes, and I don't know why
Yeah,
it's
don't worry about just let's talk about content. So this
I'm
is,
gonna have to jump at 2 for
So this
another
is
Zoom.
where you can
But
bulletize.
oh,
now that Carrie's
before we,
here,
yeah, we need to, before you leave, can we talk about articles that we need to vote on?
Yes.
Just because we can finesse this document until the cows come
okay,
home.
all right.
But let me just see if I got a response from Jay. I did not get a response from Jay. Whoops, nope, I have to look. Oh, here we go.
Sorry, guys, I had us down for 2, not 1. I can
Uh,
tag team
uh,
here.
okay, so we can vote on Article 11. This is a question that I was wondering about, and I got the response from Jay. So why don't we really quickly go through the articles? I think the first article is, I have them up here somewhere.
No, this is it right here. So I took on.
So, Article 10, this Article 10 is one that's of interest to us, but I don't know that it's, so what Article 10 is, I don't know if you recall, 955 Main Street, that the medical office building that, Foreman Place was looking at, the one that's kind of askew in its lot.
Yep.
The stretch of the Woburn Loop behind that is actually owned by the town. I'm hoping there's a plot,
Yeah, they better have a PowerPoint. I mean, a slide that shows the map.
yeah, so the stretch behind the Woburn, behind that building is actually owned by the town, and they are currently leasing it for parking to 955 Main Street, I believe. And so they want to authorize it for up to 20 years. I don't think this affects our zoning. I asked Michael Wang if he thought this would have any effect, and his response was non-committal, but not necessarily saying this is an issue. So I don't know that we need to have take a position on this.
Well, so just to throw a wrinkle in, if we said 20 years, and we're also saying that we think that the zoning changes that we're making in this area will unfold over the next 10 to 20 years, is 20 years too long? And should we just say 10 because we're trying to encourage the aggregation of land and the development of housing? I mean, would somebody in town meeting say, you're
Well,
asking?
I guess the key is it's being authorized for up to a 20-year term.
Right, and I
So
think, yeah.
yeah, it could be shorter. I mean, the other thing that when we think about this, remember 955 Main Street is a condo. So the development would be difficult there in
Yes,
any
it would.
case.
Okay, well pointed out.
So are we okay does anyone think that we should have an opinion on this officially?
I think we can have an opinion that we're in support of it because understanding that it's a long development horizon anyway on that building.
Okay, so the com
No, now it's good.
okay, I think we just lost Nick. So
Okay.
what I'll say something that, we're talking about this land. So Article 11 is the purchase of a small chunk of the land on Waterfield lot, which
Right,
is required to go ahead with the Waterfield project.
right.
And so I think this is one that we should take a stance on.
Well, I would move that we vote in favor of this, in support of this article, because it's imperative housekeeping for a huge project to move forward.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, do we want to have any discussion on this? I don't hear discussion, so I've lost track of who's actually here. Let me see if I can figure out who's here.
You got
Uh,
Sally,
Okay,
Nick, Jing, Carrie.
Okay, so why don't I do a roll call vote? Carrie,
I,
Nick,
I,
Sally,
I,
I Ching, are you still with us?
Yep, I.
Oh, and I say I as well. Great. So that's number 11. Um,
going back
there
to
is
10, what were you gonna say about 10? We're not taking a vote, right?
right. What I would say is that, this is like this, I'm not sure what I would say, other than the planning board has an interest in this land because it is, we are re-envisioning North Main Street and, maybe I don't say anything. Oh,
Well,
this is the
if
key.
somebody raises the question,
I think
um,
this is a key thing right there.
oh, it's an,
It's encumbered by an MWA sewer easement. I forgot about
it
that.
limits future development of the property. The planning board has no objection to this.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a
article.
park. So the other one that we were asked to comment on, which I think we've already voted on, the um, is the
So I think
tree
so.
permanent street tree committee.
Yep,
And
we
I,
voted in
we
support of
voted.
that.
yeah, I can't remember which article it is.
I do, I have it right here. It's the,
Late.
it's Article 31.
right, and we did vote in favor already.
Yeah, and I will try to remember all the good and positive things we said.
Um,
Uh,
so
but
I wanted to know if we should, say about number 17, a question that I had. And
okay, so this is to Article 17 is
it's Davidson Park in Washington Park, and actually it came up in the town managers meeting, so maybe we don't need to address it here. The question was,
this
we
is
haven't
Nick.
seen-
I'm gonna sign off.
okay.
I-
Thanks, Nick.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Yep, see you Monday.
I think, never mind, Dia, the question was asked in the town managers meeting, is there gonna be, plans for town meeting to see for Davidson Park and Washington Street Park? And I think she said, yes, she'll have the schematic designs up there. So
Yeah,
fine.
I don't know
We have
what,
no,
I
we
don't
don't
know that
have a.
we don't have any. I don't see any other articles that we would want to comment on.
Nope, I don't either.
So, but we are meeting again on Monday and we can always change our mind.
Okay,
Okay. So let us go back to. Okay, so this is a mess, understandable. I think that at this point, this is one where I thought that we could actually.
the slides that you're at now, this is where it was clear to me that you hadn't had a chance yet to do the minimalism.
Yeah,
So
this is straight from the
18,
one that I
19,
did last week.
20, they have words like, we will need to write new.
Yeah, this is gone. This is where I was going to pull in some of the whatever the hell happened to that. I was going to pull in these slides, this one here,
Much easier, yes.
and not that one, but this one here, one of these two. And then oh, this is just Emily's talk. There's a lot of stuff, but there's not a lot I could pull out of this, unfortunately.
Well,
It's
because
just
it's too high. Hers is a deep dive, and we're doing a very high level review of what
so
we're doing.
so I think the key thing to take away from this is that we are going to we're overlapping GBD 2 and 3. We've merged these efforts. That we have achieved compliance with the existing, that we have a base model which gets us to compliance, and we have plenty of wiggle room to adjust it. So we can take it, we can go in a number of directions and still be in compliance. I think that's the key thing. And those are I think the two big takeaways here, other than the next part of our journey towards getting this done.
I think that's I Ching. Does that seem?
I mean, I think I don't know if I Ching is with
Okay,
us.
now I can unmute. Okay. I um goodness, I lost my thought. Oh, I think that that message is okay, dear, but I think that I keep hearing you say that we are there, but I can see opponents of the MBTA 3A will be very opposed to the as of right issue going on. So we are not there. Our zoning allows for it by special permit. The big kicker is that we're going to change that to as of right. And so I think that's going to be the key. And you can't say that we're there already, because that's the fight that's going to happen, is that as of right issue.
So let me
I agree.
so let me change the wording to say that we are compliant with the
Remember the three things? There's density, there's
yeah,
area,
yeah.
and there's
Our zoning allows for it with special permit. This
Right,
will
but we
change
don't
it to allowing for the same dimensional requirements as of right.
right, but I don't so there may be pushback, but there's not much we can do. We have to allow it by right.
I know, but I don't think people understand that point. And then the people who are going to oppose it are going to push on that lack of understanding of what that means to get people
So
scared about it. So
so how do we so
yeah, we need to focus on how to get that message straight. But
so
I
what
think
is
that Emily did it, and you did it even yesterday too, or 2 days ago, whenever it was, saying that the special permit has really slow down investment and building. And so the as of right then sort of spurs it back on, or makes it much more possible for development to happen. Right? Because the special permit is a great thing for communities to take control. It is. However, there needs to be a balance where that much control then completely arrests any sort of development. And so this as of right issue is to kind of ignite something, or to get the wheels turning.
so I'm just trying to see if I said anything special. This is what I said last night. Do you think that we should bring out the cost of special permits?
Yeah, I do think so. I think it
Okay,
has helped most communities want it because it helps you control it. Of course it does.
okay.
But it's
So
controlled so much that there has been no development.
what we want, we don't want that.
yes, I
But
Ching will say.
so we want to say that we are in dimensional compliance. Dimensional
People don't know what
or
that means.
I know, I just want to, this is
Okay.
just
Yep.
notes.
Shorthand.
So
Okay.
dimensional compliance. So that gets rid of the concern, hopefully, that we're going to have these massive superstructures. Then we want to talk about I don't know what the hell's going on here. Let's just make every the same size. How about that? Okay. So then we want to have, we're going to talk about how do we approach this? Do we just say why special permits are bad, or I
No,
Ching,
not
you've thought
bad,
about
but
this?
they have helped communities like ours, you know, move shape the developments that happen. But as a result, no developments have happened, right? So what you said last night, or 2 nights ago, was what that means, is that it significantly exactly what's there. But I don't think that
Okay.
people will read it. You'll have to say it.
Yeah, I will turn this into bullets. Right now, this slide is just ideas. So do we want to talk about the design guidelines as well? That's a big concern of some people. Or do
Correct.
we just
No,
skip
I do
over
Well,
think
it?
I
we
think
should.
it's worth mentioning because it makes us,
Me too.
it lets them know that it's not just going to be
Right.
Okay.
boxes of brick.
Right, okay.
I would
So,
also talk about the fact that there are historic preservation um, um, laws in Winchester that will apply to all historic structures up North Main Street, like the 1-year demo delay, for instance.
to be honest, I don't know that a lot of people care about the historical structures on North Main Street as much as you and I do, Sally.
Well, I had one person in one of our meetings specifically talk about the cluster of houses on the east side in the middle of, or the upper part of GBD2.
Right,
So
okay.
like just saying,
So,
one person maybe doesn't,
so what,
Hmm.
we'll have design guidelines and we will talk about historical preservation.
Yeah.
Right, so I don't think we have to go into the details, but
we
just
don't.
let people know that we are actually historical, not hysterical, historical.
Right. And I do think that what Foreign Place and Emily are trying to do is to help us encourage to write it in a way that brings the characteristics of the things that we like about downtown into these new developments, right? So rather than a
Yeah.
preventative defensive position, it's proactively encouraging development that brings in the things we like about downtown into the new developments.
Yes.
No, so I don't want to use the word character. Because the thing
Right.
that I like about downtown is the walkability and the scale, but it's not the architecture
Yes,
which
then say,
beckons to me.
say,
But other people like it. So the best of downtown. So that's really vague. So
The feel of a space, um
I-
the s-
the
space
scale and
making,
walkability,
space
scale,
making, um
okay, scale and walkability. Scale, walkability, and vitality.
vitality. Vitality is a good
there
one.
you go.
We need to have something to keep them awake. Okay. I don't think it likes walkability. Why not?
No, because it's not. And the
It,
other one that it doesn't like is bikeability.
yeah. Okay. So this is just we're telling you that we're doing this. I've removed the fact that so I'll talk about, oh, I have to do mention Innis Associates. Emily changed the name of her email. It used to be Innis Design. Now it's Innis Associates.
I noticed that she said, notice new everything, new phone, new something, new something, new something, and I just didn't pay
You might
attention.
just have new partners or something, so she has to change that.
Yeah.
name.
Okay. So or she's expanding. She has a big firm. Okay. So this is the words. These are the words. Somehow I will come up with something pretty to look at. This goes away. This slide
Why are you
goes away
leaving?
because we are going to use those other ones with
Okay, yeah, oh, yeah,
with
the
the
really nice one. I
arrows.
saw that one. Yeah, I know the one you
Yeah,
mean.
from Emily's thing. I'll fix the thing. So we're now at 4. Well, that's grayed out. So 4, 6. We're gonna do something with 7 and 8. I don't know what. That's 3, 4, 5. Nope, we're getting rid of this one. We've
Yep,
already, so
because you
we're
put
having
the
that. We're
gears on the
combining
next one
those.
I like.
These are quick.
Yep,
And then we have a summary. So we're still, but no, because we still are going to pull in some of the data from these.
So
I think,
I couldn't talk to you while I was trying to get through these, but the point was I wanted to bring it back to the master plan 2030 to say that our focus on these 3 parts of town is not new and didn't come out of the blue. It came out of the master plan 2030 and it is incorporated into the MBTA Communities Act. And so it's all combined. I didn't want it to just focus on housing. It is a lot about economic vitality, including funding sources from the state, right? Like I think that that's a huge point that we need to emphasize too, is that our town is always looking for funding sources, and this is huge.
So from the state, from retail development kind of things that could be produced along Main Street in the CBD and Houghton, that plus housing is what these three areas have been determined not by us but by the town to focus on. And so I feel like the reason why we need to focus on those three parts of town is because people keep asking about Wedgemere Station, and why that's not included in the MBTA 3A Communities Act. And that idea that this has been a long time focus of development, it's these 3 years, not Wedgemere, is helpful, I think. Maybe it doesn't
Okay.
explain it all, but it's helpful.
So to paraphrase, to make sure I know what you mean, that the fact that we're focusing our efforts on the areas that we are is very much driven by work that was done to create the master plan, and it's driven by the messages of the master plan. And the master plan did not identify the Wedgemere area as an economic development area,
Yeah.
economic
Or-
opportunity
Right.
area.
Right.
And
Well,
economic
yeah, I
opportunity
mean,
areas are what we're looking at.
so I think the main, yeah, I agree with that. I think the main reason people bring up Wedgemere is because they want to reduce the pressure on the downtown.
I
So
think
I
the
think
message is that we can reduce the message on the downtown, but we have to do it carefully. And when you said we have plenty of wiggle room before, I would use the word a little.
I would, yes, I agree. I would, I'll have to be careful of the magnitude of the words I
Yes,
use.
we have a little bit of wiggle room,
We
not
have
a
wiggle
lot.
room.
We have
Yes,
some.
we have some. Okay. So, so the story going in here is that we're not going to lead with MBTA 3A. We're going to start with a story which is talking about the master plan,
What the planning board does. Yes.
um, and that the master plan is part of this process of examining the different parts of town. And I'm going to skip over these because I think this is the part we start talking about next. And this is a little busy, so I don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
pull these together. I think it's a riot of colors.
It is a
And
riot. And I think
so
that whoever did this, was trying to do the exercise I did, but using a different color.
Yeah, they were
When
doing, this is
everything-
the land use. Isn't this the land
Right. So
use?
everything that is white or pale yellow is all single family. That was
Yeah.
their point. That was my point, is that everything
Yeah.
in color are the non-single family uses.
So you could do a
So
big call out just in the upper left where it's all white right now. It's in Woburn.
I
And you
well,
could take that yellow color and say, big arrow, single family.
Or just verbally
right.
say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I think we have, I don't want to stand up there and try to figure out how to get people to pay attention to this one area, because our story here is, our story is master plan, economic development. We're going to talk a little about these. It's going to lead us into a discussion of these three areas somehow. I haven't figured that out yet. At least in terms of presentation. Then it's going to talk about how, so we're moving forward with North Main Street, and we see the MBTA is actually, it's kind of falls into part of our existing plans, because I think it's important to note that the rezoning of the CBD actually created the density, which means we don't have to worry so much like other towns. So we have this existing density in the CBD because previous generations of town leaders decided that they wanted to increase the vitality of the center business district. And so, so that's part of that. Then I think we can switch to, so this is then, okay, so I think this is an important slide in terms of saying the fact that we are spending a lot of money outside of town. And that's one of the reasons we want to build up our local economic development. Then we get to this part. Now, this is all really about an economically gated community.
Okay, so this was
This is
my
for town meeting?
this was for so this was okay, so this was my argument for these couple of slides. If you go back to the age thing, so the percentage of older adult population is projected to be close to a quarter of the population, right? So it's increasing, and the number of young children is decreasing actually. So if you go to the next slide, our housing stock and our household sizes with the circle here with is predominantly single family. However, the household composition is I don't what's that was that percentage, like a third of the number of households in our community is children with under age 18, right? So
Mhm.
the it's a mismatch of housing supply with the housing needs, right? Because
Yeah.
the number of the people, a lot of the households do not need humongous houses is the point.
So there's I did, this, let me see if I can, this is a complex slide, and what I'm going to show you is probably just as complex, but let me see if I can find it. So a few years ago I did,
There are a lot of ways to get to this point that of explaining how we got here, right? There's just a real mismatch of what's needed and what is being supplied.
oh, that was a
So
really
that was
simple
one
one.
way.
Yeah.
And you were trying
Yeah.
to get to it another way with the housing burden portion.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, so I have other data that is newer than this, I believe. And that's just what I'm trying to, I don't
So
even
there's a
remember.
housing burden argument. There is like a housing type mismatch. And I mean, I find very convincing the median household income versus the median housing price over time is huge, right? Like the big one was, in 1990, it was like three times the median housing income was the median housing price. Now it's about
Yeah.
9 times or so. So and in Winchester it's probably, much more. So that could also suggest that there's a housing problem.
Oh, this is the one that I did before, which is really, this was, yeah, I'm just trying to think of where the hell did I get these data from, because they're newer than this one. And it showed, there's a population one in here too. I'm not suggesting we use this. I'm just trying to see if I can remember.
I just think that there are some people who don't need this argument at all, who
Yeah.
understand that housing prices are insane here, but how do we who are we talking to? The people who need convincing, or like what are we trying to who are we trying to convince?
If there are
Some of this
people who, yeah, I think most people, I think, are aware of the high price of housing. I think that I don't know how many people are aware of the fact that we're driving out these populations. Because they can't stay in town.
I feel like we need to convince people that they need to care about that, because I don't think that some people might know that but don't care that increase sort of stratification of it is happening. I do think some people are just fine with that. So I think what Emily argued in that, it's it drives out talent. It sort of provides it produces instability in families, instability in a community. I think all that might be a little bit more convincing than these housing prices things. But
Okay,
I think
so
that's the demographic, is that people who know that that's happening but don't care.
so we want to talk about the effects on families in terms of, you said it really well, I Ching. My brain is just totally
I think
blank.
because it brings instability to families where the generations can't stay near each other, whether that's older or younger, and brings instability to communities because we can't get um, the we can't get some of the services that happen, right? The teachers and the town workers and the baristas that and the people who are contractors to live close enough to come and help and provide the services that people want. And I do think
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I
economy.
think I agree with you. I think it's important, but I have heard from people who say, well, that's just tough. I mean, it's not, we don't have to provide housing which town employees or school employees can live in because they just, that's not our role is,
Right. So then
that's,
I think the instability in families might be the
yeah,
argument to counteract that. Because
yeah. So we are definitely driving families apart. We, so a key in the instability of families, the loss of talent. I'll have to try to remember what Emily said. I know you brought that up. Okay. And, I think the other thing is that, and I don't have the economic data to back this up, are the populations that we're losing, are they the ones who would be providing, well, they're certainly the ones we generally typically don't have children, which is a net positive towards our tax revenue.
So I saw the data for this in sort of age demographics, and over time in Winchester, there's what's called a millennial valley. So the 20-some-year-olds to 30-year-old is a deep drop and way deeper than the state, and then
Yeah.
our senior level is higher than the state. So it's this deep dive and then like a thing. So that portion of it where the seniors are aging and living longer, and don't have a place to live, as well as the no supply for this one, because we just don't have that talent of that pool of age group here in town. There's nothing.
Right. But if we're gonna argue that we need more housing for seniors, yet we have a higher percentage of seniors than other towns, that kind
Yeah,
of
where are they
argument.
going? Right.
Well, no, it's saying that we already have a higher level of seniors than other towns, so we don't have to worry about providing housing for seniors. We're already doing a better job than anyone else. That's what
Well, I
that,
don't think you would get that response from the Jenks, right? Where they're
Yeah,
getting.
I would
oh,
like to chime
I,
in on that point, just from the Jenks and the Council on Aging. They're finding that the statistics are that older generations are moving in with their children, and it's creating that's great, but sometimes it's kind of a forceful moving in, and they're moving in because they need help, not necessarily because it's a choice. So we have an increase of seniors coming to Winchester, and there's a reasonable portion of that demographic is moving in because they need assistance and they need additional housing, and so they're moving in with their children who happen to live in Winchester currently, and that's what we're finding from the Council on Aging. Excuse me.
So it's not
okay,
like a
so
right sizing of moving into the right size housing. It's like a stressful kind of.
Well,
Right. So
that's
this,
just a section of it.
Right.
It's not everyone, of course, but that is a significant portion of, or a reasonable portion of what is happening. Yep.
Mhm.
so I will sum that up by saying older generations are moving in with children because they have no other housing choices, increasing stress on households. I think that covers that. At least that's what my notes will hopefully remind me to say. Okay, so that takes care of that little blip in the data. So I think that we need to focus on the human costs, the family costs, the loss of the people in this age group, the millennials or whatever you want to call the valley are the ones with the most disposable income because they haven't started saving up for homes. So they do have income which could be spent in town, but it's not because they're not here. They're also more likely to want to live in housing which is near transit and which doesn't, they don't want large units. They don't want to have to deal with taking care of properties. So that's a possible demographic. And they want the flexibility of being able to rent. And I don't know what the statistics are in terms of car ownership. We
So
always talk
when
of,
you talk about housing burden, there is a new sort of more measure of housing and transit burden. So, transit or car ownership is $12,000 a year, um, according to AAA now, right? So add
Yeah.
$1,000 per year. So the housing plus transit cost burden is now would then cover a significant a bigger proportion of people who had that kind of a burden. So,
right.
it's kind of I think a more accurate assessment of cost burden.
So I like that phrase transit burden. And
Housing
the
and
number,
transit. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Housing plus transit.
Yeah, but breaking out the transit burden is separate is about $1,000 a month, which I think is so we have a housing burden, we have a transit burden, we have essentially a population which is probably also struggling with
Student loans just came back.
student loans. Thank you. So we want to provide housing which can enable them to stay in town. Okay, so we have a snapshot of that demographic. We have a snapshot of older generations. We have about a 30-minute discussion going on here. So let me think about how we're going to integrate these. And it ain't going to be this afternoon. But I think we do have to vote on this. I know Nick has left us, but he seemed to be okay with incorporating this sort of North Main Street, or not North Main, but comprehensive master plan plus economic development plus etc. So I think he'd be fine with what we've just discussed now. Can't put words in his mouth, but he was certainly okay with everything else. So we've been at this for a while. So why don't we try to come to, if there's a motion to approve the town meeting report as amended with giving I Ching and myself the authority to put this into a final form. And I will try to put out interim releases over the next day or so, so people see what's happening, and you can pipe up and say if you think it's going in the wrong direction. I'm just noticing that some of the when I went through some of the older presentations, they were down to like 10 or 11 slides, and we are really pushing it here. So, okay, so if there's a motion for that,
So moved, Diab.
whatever it is I said,
Well,
is there
let me restate. I move that the planning board authorize Diab and I Ching to work together between now and when the town manager, the town clerk needs the report at noon on Monday, to finalize the planning board's report for Fall Town Meeting 23, and incorporating all of the agreed upon communication strategies and communication priorities that we talked about in this meeting.
okay? Is there a second?
Or discussion.
Second.
Yeah, now we can Roger's rules. Now we can discuss.
Oh,
Any
okay.
discussion? I feel, Carrie, since you got here an hour late, we should force you to stay another hour.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, you'd have to be by
carrying you around
yourself
the house
though.
a bit, but I can.
Okay, so we have a second. Why don't we just do a roll call vote? I Ching,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Oof, that's a marathon session. Let me stop sharing so I can see who's all here. You're all still here. Mud Lord, Richard Leaf is with us. Hi, Richard. Thanks for stopping by. I guess we have to also a motion to adjourn, please.
I move that.
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Thank you. Roll call. Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching.
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Thanks to Taylor Herman, Town Planner, Recording Secretary Nancy Polcari, Richard Leaf, our liaison from the Chamber of Commerce, and as always, thank you WinCam for putting us out onto the airwaves. Thanks to all of you who will see us on tape. The next time we will meet will be Monday at 5:45 in the high school. That is the night of town meeting. Hope you all can catch us and the rest of town meeting via WinCam. See you later. Bye.